South Korean publisher Com2uS has acquired a majority stake in the mobile studio Day7, which is known for developing romantic visual novel games. The deal was SUPPOSCDLYXECUTDDBECAUSC. Com2uS believes this investment will help the company continue its growth in top markets overseas, as reported by Pocket Gamer. The publisher confirmed ownership, along with management rights for Day7, earlier this week. Financial details of the deal were not publicly disclosed. Seoul-based studio Day7 has released around 30 visual novels for both iOS and Android devices, with Wannabe, a role-playing game targeting women for its core audience, as its latest game development. Grinding Gear Games, Path of the Exile is free-to-play success story, having grown from modest beginnings in 2013 to entertain millions of active players every month. And at the AGAME Developers Conference in San Francisco next month, you will get to see how the dev team keeps it going strong. As part of the BD 2019 design check-off talks, Grinding Gears Chris Wilsonville present, designing Path of Exile to be played forever. An inside look at how Path was built from the ground up with sustainable development in mind. Expect to learn how to structure releases in 2 seasons with predictable release dates and scope, how to reuse content for rapid development, how to use procedural generation to keep content from feeling stale, how to employ multiple overlapping axes of randomness for additional replayability, how to design deep gameplay systems that keep players engaged, and most importantly, how to grow while you are community over a long period of time. You will not want to miss this and many other insightful talks lined up for the show this year, so bookmark them in THEGDC 2019 session scheduler. There you can begin to lay out your GD 2019, which takes place March 18th through the 22nd at the newly renovated Moscone Center in San Francisco. Bring your team to GD, register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more. For more details on GDC 2019, visit the show's official website, or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, OS. Gamasutra and GD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. The Kingdom games are facilitating development in the genre of X, explore, exploit, extend, extinguish games. For example, instead of taking place on a grid or plane, they happen online. They are also games of hard resource management, and in the case of the first one, of endurance gameplay. Thomas, Noel, and Dunberg and Coates Inc. recently released a sequel, Kingdom 2 Crowns, that plays with the formula in interesting ways, adding in multiple kingdoms to run, a second currency, and even a co-op mode. We talked with creator Van Dunberg about the game, and some of its unique ideas, also chiming in with his own opinions. His creative director for 12 Crowns, Gordon Van Dyke, edited for length and clarity. The original Kingdom is billed as being inspired by roguelike modes of gameplay. We asked about how those ideas inspired the original game. Van Denberg, I am not very well versed in classic game design vocabulary, but for me, roguelike is a very natural consequence of a design methodology used by indies. It is an effective way to automatically scale the difficulty of the game so that each run goes from too easy to too difficult, and that there is thus always a part with interesting difficulties in between. Additionally, for indies, it allows you to make effective use of assets, because certain parts of the game will be repeated, One might even be able to avoid having complex save game mechanics, because the game restarts. For Kingdom, the rinse-repeat nature of the game is more of a consequence of how the game was designed, rather than a goal from the start. We discovered throughout Kingdom's lifetime that there is a great satisfaction that comes from building things up in a more permanent way. So 2Com2uS reflects that. Van Dyke, I came into the project to help with the design after the roguelike design was in place, and for me it felt like the natural choice for Kingdom. There was a puzzle element to it where you mastered it with strategic decisions over impulsive ones, no different than Tetris. And like Tetris, impulsive choices always cause your journey to end sooner than later. So, for me, roguelike became an easy term to use when explaining the basic design loop to a broader audience. Like Thomas mentions, we saw a lot of players forming a natural attachment to their Kingdom. And with Kingdom 2Com2uS having a lot of big changes, it was the perfect time to move towards an experience that was more about protecting what you built rather than only defeating or escaping. As a big fan of Infinity Blade, that game's Descendants narrative was a means to soften the original design, and was an inspiration for the decade design we adopted. This let players in 2Com2uS keep a majority of what they built, after inevitably losing their crown, and was a bigger motivation to continue playing. Themats in Kingdom are unique in that they each only go left and right, and are one-dimensional. Van Denberg, I like the panoramic visual aspect of it, as well as the fact that it equates moving through the world with punning the map. Actual platforming movement, e.g. jumping, would get in the way of the strategy aspect, I think. However, in terms of strategy, it can be hard to find gameplay mechanics that allow very complex tactics by the player. Units are either in range or out of range on a one-dimensional line. There's not much more to gain from squad placement. What is also interesting is that when units are placed on a one-dimensional line, you are forced to allow them to overlap, which means that multiple units can be in the same place. That has some consequences for the design behind area of effect. Weapons, like the catapult boulder in Kingdom, when you add hard defenses, walls, to that mix, it means that taunted enemies will pile up in the same spot, and are all hit at the same time by the boulder. This makes some game mechanics much less predictable controllable. Van Dyke, my background before Kingdom was designing in 3D worlds, and a majority of that was on Battlefield. So, for me it was an amazing challenge, and that is my favorite aspect of sticking to the one-dimensional design. It forces you to be much more creative in the design, underlines to solutions that keep in line with the core of Kingdom very nicely. This also means I do not dislike anything about it. Van Denberg, I think to make another Civilization, you really have to want to make another Civ. Those games are very well thought planned out, and my guess is that their development process is not super experimental. Kingdom started off with the king on the horse, riding through the world. Then I started adding elements to this world that would be interesting to find a fight. The enemies were a relatively late addition to the original Flash game. Kingdom and 2Com2uS both use a very interesting visual metaphor. For your money, it's represented as a little money pouch in the corner of the screen. Incorporated goes into the pouch as physically active coins. Debits disappear from the pouch individually. If the pouch fills to the top, coins spill out on the lands in the water. Last, the sequel expands this by adding a second kind of currency, gems, that goes into the same pouch. Van Denberg, the money pouch is a result of a 1-1 design methodology. Everything in the world is represented by an entity. There are very little aggregate numbers. As such, each coin is one coin in the bag, and not a number on your screen. The maximum number of coins is quite generous, so it never limited us. Now that we are expanding the tech tree upwards, things tend to get more expensive, so the size of the bag might be more of an issue. But it's okay so far. I have always resisted having an additional separate currency, so adding the gems into the bag was an idea by Gordon and Co to think to mix in a currency without introducing complication. I think there are some gotchas around this combination. You cannot drop gems until the bag is empty of coins first. But then again, those are also fun things to learn to deal with. Van Denberg, I used pixel art because it is fun to learn and make, and it is economical.